The recent suspension of university certificates from Togo and Benin Republic, a surprising turn of events, have sparked concerns and discussions in the country. Questions are raised about the validity and authenticity of academic qualifications obtained from these countries. Nigeria today tends to look into the reasons behind this suspension, its implications for students and professionals, and the broader impact on the educational landscape in Nigeria as it is. As we explore the controversies, evaluate the consequences, and engage in a comprehensive analysis of this significant development in the realm of higher education, I will in a moment introduce to us some gentlemen that will share their views on what we are up against with the suspension of these foreign certificates. Well, welcome to Nigeria Today. I am Victoria Clinton. Thanks for joining us. Now, joining us to discuss suspension of certificates from foreign countries is Dr. Philip John Hayab, an educationist. Yeah, welcome to Nigeria Today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Good to see you again.
Yes, Happy New Year to all Nigerians and people beyond.
And also joining us via Zoom is Dr. Emmanuel Ande Ivogba, WAC Self-Education Thematic Lead, Executive Director, Center for Faith and Community Development. Glad to have you join us. Well, happy New Year. Well, it's like we lost the audio there, but well, we'll come back to it. Now, let me start with you. How do you perceive these suspension of accreditation and evaluation of degree certificates from, the Togo and Benin Republic?
Well, I would say that the suspension is an evidence that the National University Commission is working alongside with the Federal Ministry of Education, and that the presidency listens to these experts, because for any national of any country to go to another country to study for any qualification for that matter, there should be some modalities. For instance, in the United Kingdom, there's what they call the National Qualification Framework. In South Africa, they have the qualification, South African Qualification Agency, SAQA. So we have to put in place this kind of checks and balances in our country. Because when I was growing up, what I knew about Benin and Togo was that Nigerians who were engaged in the study of French at the colleges of education in Nigeria and at the university would often go there for immersion courses. Why do they have to go to Lome and Togo and Benin? This is Togo and Benin, but the fact that these are West African countries and it was easy and maybe cheaper to go and spend a year or 6 months or thereabout in these places, because everyone would be speaking in French to a large extent at the market, at school, and even in everywhere they go to socialize. So the students stood a chance of improving their French proficiency, and when they were back home, they were more proficient in the French language. Mm-hmm. But in recent years, I have come across students who would tell me that they are studying in Benin, they're studying at Togo, and I asked them what kind of courses are these, and then the programs are in English. So I begin to ask, how many books would these universities would they have? How many academics would they have? If the courses were to be in French, for instance, I would suppose that the academics there are well qualified to handle that. But for these programs to be run in English, I actually suspected that these programs were either compromised, or in fact maybe it was just a sort of a rackety. racketeering business. And most of these institutions will be bearing the name of an American university or a university elsewhere, and then it is the campus that is in Benin or is in Togo. So I commend the Federal Ministry of Education for taking this matter very seriously. There is a rumor, and which I have read, of a journalist who is accused of having backed a degree within weeks, I think 6 weeks, and then he had been mobilized to go for the National Youth Service Corps. I know if at all somebody is going to be very brilliant, the minimum number of years to acquire a bachelor's degree should be 3 years, and not 1 year, not 2 years, not 2 years and a half, not to talk of 6 months. Such is dismal and is condemnable, and I'm sure the action that the federal government has taken is a welcome development, so that if you have to go to school abroad, we should know what school is it that you are going to, and not just any form of arrangements that you have on the roadside.
Okay, having said that, I was about talking about the journalist that went undercover to, you know, unravel some of these anomalies that that's been going on. You know, but again, I want to know: is this the appropriate step to take, considering the fact that, as much as we say that you know, some of the schools, definitely will not be all of them. That some of the schools are, you know, involved in certificate racketeering. You know, some are still authentic. You know, so is this the appropriate step to take?
Well, I have gone through the list of the universities, and I do not see any of the universities operating like a full-fledged universities. A university. Rather, they are operating as study center. As a study center. And you know, some years ago we had study centers almost everywhere in this country, and the NUC has to ban them. And then we had some sanity. Now, this same kind of study centers have come back to us, and not study centers of universities within Nigeria, but universities with names elsewhere. Anybody could come with an arrangement and say there is a study center. I would not send my child to any university that is a study center actually, because the chances that the university will be standard would be very, very limited. Now, university degrees, education across the globe is standardized. There is a procedure, and the expectation is that anyone who earns a degree, let's say if you earn a degree from the University of Lagos and someone earns the same degree from the University of Maiduguri, when you meet, you should be at par to a large extent, if not on the same scale. Now, with these study centers, people can pay their ways and not even attend the universities, and because it is about business. And education is not all about business in terms of profit making, but it is human development, human capacity development, and therefore we have to be serious about it. If you don't train people properly, then they will have nothing to offer to society, and that is unfortunate. Yes, maybe not all these university centers are fake or even involved in certificate racketeering, but I think to a large extent, if a good analysis, proper analysis is taken, even if it was to be done by different parties, the chances would be that these study centers would not be full-fledged universities. They wouldn't even have a library. They wouldn't have any laboratory. They wouldn't even have, you know, accredited academics who work here. Maybe somebody just gets a job and he says he's a lecturer. Such kind of arrangement does not all go well for our country, and therefore I support the Federal Ministry of Education.
But again, the question would be, how do you differentiate these certificates? Because most of the ones that came, like the undercover journalist, of course he was awarded a certificate, and he went to the NYSC, of course. You know, so how do we differentiate? How can these certificates be differentiated? How do you know the authentic ones? How do you know the fake ones?
Yes, so I think one of the easiest ways of identifying an authentic and, you know, trustworthy university is to look at the history of the establishment of the university. I had the privilege too of studying outside of Nigeria, and I was interested in the history of whatever university that I was attending. So when I was a student at the University of Ghana, I found lots of universities that had Nigerian students. And most of these were university colleges. They didn't even have lecturers. They were borrowing lecturers from all walks of all places. And I tried to find out from most of the Nigerian students that I found there. One is just this quest to leave home. This Japa syndrome has always been there. It's just now that it's getting a name. Now, you cannot just Japa for education, particularly if the person is going to go and study and come back to work here. These graduates of these centers are likely not going to finish to work in the places where these universities are located. One of the universities in Ghana in 2010, I'm not going to call the name, when I attended the matriculation, first set of students, there were 52. 50 of these students, about 49 of these students were from Nigeria. Now the question is that if a university has credibility, why are Ghanaians not enrolled at the university? Why is it only Nigerians going all the way to Ghana? And I discovered it was the fees. Okay, you are studying internationally, and then you have small, just a meager amount of fees to pay. But then the quality of teaching and learning, what was it?
When you talk about the fee, is it really cheap?
Yes, it is cheap in the context that this school is not located in Nigeria. So, you know, we have this idea, anything that is not Nigeria, it's better than what it is at home, but that is not true. Those of us who attended university at home and those who still attend today, a good number of them, to a large extent, can actually do better than the graduates that are coming from these mushroom universities. Wherever a mushroom university is, you can be rest assured that it won't produce anything serious that is going to be beneficial to Nigeria. Therefore, we need to checkmate these practices. We need to actually give an accredited list of universities that will allow our nationals to go to. We don't just go to any university. We should go to a university with reputation.
Even though the suspension is pending, when there will be an investigation by the ministry, of course, to know, you know, the authenticity of this story. But again, the worry is, what happens to some of the students who are studying already in these countries and are studying in maybe good universities and are, you know, going through the normal number of years, like the 4-year courses or the 5-year course, you know. So what happens to them? Because the certificate means whatever certificate you bring from these two countries are not valid as it is.
Yes. Now, one of the ways is for these students to mount pressure on the universities that they are registered at, so that these universities will follow the procedure of authenticating their license to operate, and also that they can also transfer their credits if they get universities elsewhere that will accept them. Now, this is where the reputation of a university starts. Can any university that is doing well accept a transcript from there? So there are institutions that may not be universities, but they are affiliated to a university that is credible. So for instance, when I was a student at the University of Stellenbosch in South Africa, I knew many theologians who would leave the Jos Equa Theological Seminary to come to do their postgraduate studies. The only caveat the university in Stellenbosch would provide would be that once you come with the first degree, you do a postgraduate certificate before you're offered a master's, which means that over the years, the university has been able to establish that the transcript that was coming from this theological seminary was credible. And how does a transcript become credible? When you accept 1 or 2 students and they are able to demonstrate that the knowledge that they have, the capacity that they have, is equal to the capacity anyone who would have studied with study, let's say, at the same level with them, the same period, or the same courses would have acquired. So for me, I'm not condemning all the universities in Benin, I'm not condemning all the universities in Togo, because I know that we have had students who had gone to Port Novo for immersion and they came out, they came back to Nigeria and demonstrated a shift in terms of paradigm shift, in terms of progress in their spoken and written French. So that means that there are universities in these countries that are credible. But these universities now that we're talking about, most of them, from the list I've read, from what is on the website of the NUC, they are study centers, and some of them here in Nigeria. So it's not just universities in Benin and Togo that are affected. All these so-called study centers, I don't think we need study centers. With the number of universities we have in Nigeria, if we're going to have a study center, it should be a credible study center that is traceable, is proven, and then is operating within with the license that you can take to the market. People are interested in making money, and sometimes people are trying just a show off how my child is schooling in Benin, my child is schooling in Togo, not minding what kind of university that is. As an educationist, I would not send my child to a school that I don't know anything about its history. And I think these study centers that we are talking about today, it is the history of their establishment that is shrouded in confusion that has led to this kind of situation. How dare you offer a degree, not even a certificate? 6 weeks? No, that is below.
I was about asking that. No, this question is very funny. You know, somebody went there, according to the story, the journalist went and studied for 6 weeks, and he came down here for NYSC for 1 year, which means the NYSC practically is longer than the number of years he spent in the university. And I was wondering, is it by chance, is it possible, is it a possibility that a course could be compressed to 6 weeks?
There is no way. You see, for you to acquire a first degree, Bachelor's of Arts, for instance, a student must have undertaken a credit course of 120 hours. And it means these hours we're counting, if you're doing 15 credit course, it is per week. You have to do this 15 credit course per week. So every course that I register, if it is 3 hours, I will attend a lecture for this course 3 hours in a single week. So if you do 15 times 13, that is a lot for a semester. Then you talk about another semester. You talk about another semester, making 3 semesters for a session. Now, if we would have to spend 13 weeks per semester, plus another 13 weeks, plus another 13 weeks, and then somebody is able to do this in, even if it were to be in 6 months, the person must be a genius. So there is something wrong with that system. And Nigerians should not fold their arms and allow them to be victims, because I think we are the victims. There is a chance if a census is taken, there are likely to be more Nigerians studying at these mushroom schools than even the people of the country where these institutions are located, and that is unfortunate.
Well, I know for 3 years it's possible, for a course of 3 years it's possible.
It is.
But then 6 weeks, it's unimaginable. Now, how can we really address this issue of so-called degree mills institutions, where institutions are practically turned to a factory for certificates? You know, it's becoming a global problem. It's not like it's just limited to to Nigeria or Togo and Benin. Even here in the country.
Even here in the country, I've met students, or I've heard about students who paid their ways for some people to write their dissertations for them. We need to check that system. The problem is that once a student does not undertake the study by themselves, that student therefore does not have anything to demonstrate in terms of learning, in terms of change of behavior from the entry point to the graduation point. And that portends danger. I've met students who would prefer you just write out their assignments and give them. Now, we need to do certain practical things. In this day and age, universities operate the Turnitin, that is the plagiarism test platform, which all universities in Nigeria by now should have, and not to leave it in the hands of individuals. because I do know of a university some years ago that I edited the dissertation of a particular candidate. And when the work was tested, I also had a Turnitin testing app. So I tested it and I found 35%. Now, the minimum that is accepted, or the maximum I should say that is accepted, it's 22 to 24. That is on the high side. But when it is 35, it means that the work is not original. Almost, yes. So now, this university, yes, you go to have your work tested, but your work is tested by a private firm. Now, a private firm can actually doctor the results. But my knowledge of Turnitin is that you submit your work and the results is not even available for you overnight until the next day that you get to see it. And once you've submitted the work, you can't retrieve it. The work goes straight to the university system, and it is that Turnitin copy that you submit that will be examined and not the one you take back. So for me, I had to print my test results and submit it with my dissertation, which is like taking an undertaking or making an undertaking, declaring that if this work is plagiarized, the university can withdraw my degree at any point in time. Now, we have not started, I'm not sure Nigerians have done well in terms of withdrawing people's degrees, and we need to get to that level so that people know that to become an intellectual, you have to be honest to yourself first before you're honest to the society. And the NUC can checkmate this kind of institutions, can checkmate these issues of lecturers or other people as firm or consultants writing dissertations for people, and they submit and they earn a PhD or they earn a master's, they earn a first degree, and when you communicate with them, they do not demonstrate any form of knowledge commensurable to the level of education they claim to have attained. That is detrimental to the progress of the country. That also has a way that it affects the pedigree and image of the country. Imagine somebody with this kind of degree goes somewhere to maybe attend a conference or to attend a program, and somebody gets to talk to them. They would start to imagine that all Nigerians are like that. That affects our pedigree before the international community. Therefore, we need to take practical steps so that we can checkmate the excesses of universities, whether at home in Nigeria or abroad, that have become degree mills. If we knew that, if it was very easy, some of us would have had 30 degrees, if it's just to go and pay money, but you have to work hard to get a degree. We cannot afford to allow people to go to degree milling stations and collect degrees and be flying around with them, saying that they have attained education.
What more can be done to boost the confidence of Nigerians in Nigerian education sector? To boost confidence in our institutions, because this trooping out to go and apply certificate elsewhere means they are losing confidence in our institutions. So what can be done to boost their confidence?
To me, I would say that the government needs to fund our education, and then these educational institutions need revamping, they need refurbishing. Most of our universities do not have the facilities that will make them a 21st century university. So most of the learners who leave this country to go and study abroad, I think they run after the facilities. But here at home, our universities have not actually gotten back to that extent. Then the strikes. If we can work and stop the strikes, most of the students who travel abroad would like to remain in Nigeria to study. After all, it is cheaper.
Thank you very much. A very big thank you to our guests, Dr. Philip John Hayab, an educationist. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution. And of course, we had Dr. Emmanuel Ande Ivogba, Works of Education Thematic Lead and Executive Director, Center for Faith and Community Development, although we lost him because of some technical hitch there. And thank you for being part of the program. Nigeria Today airs weekdays at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also watch this and others on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thank you for being part of the program. I am your carrier, Clinton. Goodbye.